I want to tell you about a Thursday. Now, it's not a special Thursday. It's not a ceremonial moment on a mountaintop or even a breakthrough in a meditation retreat. It's just a regular Thursday at my corporate job at my desk doing my work. And out of nowhere, it all dropped in. The whole thing, clear as anything, the membership, the podcast, the community, and the work that I was always meant to do. Now, I just sat there for a brief moment because I had been looking for that feeling for years, pushing towards it, straining to reach it, and creating things that were close but were never quite right. And there it was, not forced, not figured out, just there. And that moment, that Thursday at my desk, that is what an open sacral chakra feels like. And today, I want to help you understand exactly what that means, what the sacral chakra is, what it governs, what it looks like when it's blocked, and what becomes possible when it finally opens. Welcome back to the Wonders Within podcast. I'm Nikki Denham, founder of Wellness Wonders Australia. Let's get into it. So the sacral chakra is the second of the 7 main energy centers in the body, and it sits glowing orange in the lower belly, just below the navel in the space between your hip bones. And it governs some of the most essential and alive parts of being a human, like belonging, creativity, pleasure, joy, emotional expression, flow, sensuality, and our relationship with receiving, whether that's love, abundance, support, or simply allowing good things in. Its element is water, and that tells you everything about what it's designed to do, because water flows. It moves around obstacles and it finds its way. It doesn't force, it follows the path of least resistance and gets where it needs to go. Now, when the sacral chakra is open and flowing, life has that quality. Ideas come naturally, creativity moves through you, and you feel connected to pleasure and to joy, and you belong somewhere and things simply flow. Now, when it's blocked, you push and you strain. You create from effort rather than inspiration. You feel disconnected from joy, from your body, and from any real sense of belonging or purpose. And you know something is there, just out of reach. But no matter how hard you try, you can't quite get to it. Now, I know that feeling intimately because for years I knew with a quiet but unshakable certainty that I was meant to do something more, that I hadn't been through everything that I'd been through to this point for nothing. And somewhere inside me was a purpose that was waiting to be found. So I did what I always do when I push towards it. I started making really healthy choices. I stopped drinking, I started exercising, eating well, meditating, and I found sound bowl healing. I walked into my first women's circle facilitated by the wonderful Courtney, and something in me recognized that space immediately. And from there, Wellness Wonders Australia was born. Now, I created and published 3 reflection journals. I built something I was genuinely proud of. But if I'm honest, it wasn't quite it. The journals, the wellness business, they weren't failures, not even close. In fact, I'm still immensely proud of them to this day. But they were stepping stones. They were the things that I learned along the way, the practices and the knowledge I was gathering without yet knowing what I was gathering them for. And the sacral chakra was opening for me, slowly, layer by layer. But there were still blocks that I hadn't yet reached. And I could feel it, that frustration of being so close but not quite there, of creating from effort rather than flow, of pushing when something in me knew that what I was looking for shouldn't feel this hard. And then I started working with my spiritual coach, Diana, from Libio by Diana, and everything shifted. Diana led me through inner child healings, chakra clearing breath work, and TRE. The deep, layered somatic and energetic work that reached places that nothing else had touched. And for the first time, I wasn't pushing anymore. I was releasing, layer by layer, session by session. The blocks that had lived in my sacral center, the wounds around belonging, the grief around creativity that had been suppressed, those patterns around not being allowed to want things, need things, or feel things, they all began to move. Now, I want to be clear about something here because this work is not quick. It is not a single breakthrough moment that fixes everything. It is slow, it is layered, and it is sometimes really uncomfortable. But it's the best gift that I've ever given myself. And what came through the other side of it was the flow that I'd been looking for. I was sitting in a meditation one evening when the first idea arrived, the Life Audit, a 6-week program for women. It came through clearly and completely, and I sat down and I built the whole thing. And while the direction felt right, because I always knew that I wanted to work helping women, something still wasn't sitting perfectly. I knew I was close, but I wasn't quite there yet. So I kept going, kept clearing, and kept showing up for the work. And then one completely ordinary Thursday at my desk, at my corporate job, doing my work, it all dropped in. Not a whisper, not a vague feeling. It was a simple knowing. The membership, the podcast, the community of women doing this work together. Now, I sat there shocked, if I'm honest, because I recognized it immediately. And not because it was loud, but because it felt like the opposite of effort. It felt like coming home. This is what flow feels like. This is what the sacral chakra being open and unblocked feels like. It's not forced, it's not figured out, and it's not pushed towards. It's simply arrived. So what blocks the sacral chakra, you might ask? Well, it is one of the most vulnerable energy centers that we have in the body because it begins forming in the earliest years of life. In the beginning years when we're learning whether it is safe to feel, safe to want, safe to receive, and safe to belong. Now, when those early experiences teach us that feeling is dangerous, we shut it down. When we learn that wanting things leads to disappointment, we stop wanting. And when belonging feels conditional, we then disconnect from our own needs to stay safe in those relationships. And the sacral chakra closes in around all of that. Now, trauma held in the body, particularly in the hips and the lower belly, directly impacts that sacral center, which is why somatic work is so powerful for opening it, because you cannot think your way into flow. You cannot intellectually unblock the energy center that closed in response to past felt experiences. It has to be felt to be open. So some common signs that your sacral chakra needs some attention could be a feeling that your creativity is blocked or dried up. You may have difficulty experiencing pleasure or joy. There could be that persistent sense of not belonging anywhere or feeling like you've got emotional numbness or overwhelm. You could have difficulty receiving, like whether that's love, help, compliments, or abundance. You could have a feeling that life is something that you push through rather than flow through. And that restless, frustrated knowing that there is something there just out of reach that you can feel, but you just can't quite get to. Now, if any of that resonates, you are not broken. Your sacral chakra is just waiting for the right conditions to open. Now, the sacral chakra responds to the same things that water responds to. So warmth, gentleness, movement, and flow. So somatic practices that move the hips and lower belly like TRE, hip release work, and gentle movement directly work on the sacral center by releasing the physical energy stored there. Now, what I found to be a pivotal part of the healing for me was the inner child work. Now, the inner child healing reaches the earliest wounds that closed the sacral chakra in the first place. So the moments where it wasn't safe to feel or want or belong. Now, chakra clearing work, whether through meditation, energy healing, breath work, or working with a practitioner like Diana, specifically targets those blocks held in each energy center and begins to move what has been stored there. And creativity itself is medicine for the sacral chakra. So not performing creativity, not creating for an outcome, just allowing that expression, either through movement, writing, sound, color, or whatever calls to you really, but doing it with no agenda other than the feeling of it. The sacral chakra opens when it finally feels safe enough to, and just like everything else in healing, it's always waiting for safety, not force. So here's what I want you to sit with this week. So go grab your journal, find a quiet moment and write to this. Where in my life have I been pushing instead of flowing? What would it feel like to stop forcing and start allowing? And what might be waiting for me on the other side of that? Now, write without editing and without trying for perfection, and just let it come. Because sometimes the answer to what we've been pushing towards is already there, just waiting for us to get quiet enough to hear it. Now, if today's episode has stirred something in you, if you felt a flicker of recognition in any of what I've shared, I want you to know that work that opened my chakra, the somatic practices, the inner child healing, and the chakra work, that is exactly what we do together inside the Wonders Circle. Every month in a held space with a community of women who are doing the same clearing, the same opening, and the same quiet, brave work of allowing themselves to flow. And if you want to explore working with Diana directly, I cannot recommend her highly enough. She has been one of the most pivotal people in my healing journey, and you can find her at libiobydiana.com, but I have put the link in the show notes so you can access that. Now, the Wonders Circle link is in there too, because what dropped in for me on that Thursday at my desk is something that I want for every single woman listening to this. Your purpose is not lost. It's just waiting for the conditions to flow. Thank you again for being here today. If nothing else, I want you to leave this episode with this. You are not broken because things haven't flowed yet. You are not behind and you are not too late. The sacral chakra, your center of belonging, creativity, and feeling, it opens when it feels safe enough to. And every single thing that you do to create that safety within yourself is bringing you closer to that Thursday when it all drops in. Now, I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.